Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and welcome back to another Friday Reads and Rambles. So, we're going to start with the things I finished this week and my reading plans for the next few days. And I think I'll have a little bit of a ramble today as well. So, first of all, I finished a poetry collection, 77 Fragments of a Familiar Ruin by Thomas King. He is an Indigenous poet slash author from Canada. I've been trying to read more Canadian literature this year. And I really enjoyed this poetry collection. There were a few things that I just think went over my head that I just, I'm like, I don't get why this is here. But I think on the whole, I really like how it was structured. It is 77 fragments, so literally none of the poems have like titles. They're all just 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 77. Most of them are what I would call poetry. Some of them are just a line or like a statement or a reflection type of thing. But some of those things that weren't poems, I didn't quite get why they were there, what he was getting at. It all felt a little bit over my head. But the bits that were more obviously poetry, I really enjoyed, and I'll talk about this more in my wrap up at the end of the month, but really highly enjoyed that collection. The other thing I finished just last night was Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. How do I talk about this? In short, I know a lot of people are like, spoilers about this book because it's the dystopian that doesn't really reveal itself right away. People say like, don't give away the twist. I didn't feel like this had a twist. And I'm not saying this to brag or anything, because if I'm being honest, I'm one of those readers who never sees things coming. I'm always in the dark. I never figure out what's going on. I'm always pleasantly surprised because everything's always a surprise to me. I'm really bad at like figuring out what's going to happen if there's any element of mystery in a book. But this, I don't get why people say it has a plot twist, because I figured out, I'm actually going to just flip through the first few pages and see where I understood what was going on in this book. So by the second page of the first chapter, my spidey senses were tingling. I kind of was starting to piece together what might be going on. Then there was another big hint dropped, page 1 of chapter 2. And then literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages into the second chapter, so this is like page 17, is when I figured out what was happening. Or I strongly suspected. I was like 99% sure I knew what the deal was with this book. And the big reveal, like, if I'm thinking of what most people talk about when they talk about the big reveal in this book, is about halfway through the book, I would say. And when I got to that point in the book, it was not a plot twist, it was not a reveal, it was very much just a confirmation that my suspicions were correct. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I just think it's funny because I'm normally so bad at figuring things out that I didn't think this was really that subtle. He drops major hints of what's happening right from the beginning, like the first couple of pages. And that did not impede my enjoyment of this at all. And I'm someone who doesn't like to know spoilers. I like surprises, and I like the novelty of, learning plot elements for the first time. But this was just so not about that. Like, that was an extra little cherry on top, cool premise for a dystopian, I guess. But this book, and this is coming from someone who I love dystopian, but this book for me was about the memories we cling to. It was about childhood. It was about like this whole book is the protagonist reminiscing of her childhood growing up in this like boarding school, if you will, and like the friendships she makes there and how some of those carry into her adult life. That those reminiscences are really what jumped out to me. There was, through the entirety of this novel, this just feeling of like the ache of nostalgia. I just loved that mood and all the commentary on memory and like the things we forget and the things we keep. And anyway, I really enjoyed that. I think I've rambled enough about it. I highly recommend it. It's a very slow burn. And I think the pacing works 1,000% in the favor of meeting out the information throughout the novel. And anyway, this is not a review of this book. This is supposed to be a Friday Reads, so we're going to move on, but I really enjoyed that. I'm also about halfway through a nonfiction that I'm reading on audiobook, maybe not quite halfway, called The Spirit Catches You When You Fall Down. It's nonfiction about a Hmong child. So these are people who don't really have a country. They live in like China, Laos. The people in this story are from Laos, but essentially they're a people, an ethnic group without like a home country. And the story follows one Hmong family who had moved to America post like the war in like Vietnam and Laos. And their daughter has severe epilepsy, and it talks a lot about like the clash between the Hmong culture and the family's beliefs and the doctors. And it's written so beautifully and with so much care. The author and Fadiman does such a phenomenal job of not laying blame and of looking at both those perspectives of how the doctors tried so very hard to give this child the best care, and how the family tried so very hard to be the best parents and provide the best care. And those things didn't always, those perspectives often didn't align. I just think it's very hard, a very hard read, like challenging emotionally. But I'm about halfway through, like I said, and so far it's wonderful. I'm also halfway through a reread of something I read in like high school that I had kind of forgotten about, but I was flipping through Overdrive, like the ebook like system for my library, and saw it and thought, I'm gonna reread that because I remembered like nothing about it. So it's essentially like reading it for the first time. And I've been trying to reread more books this year. It's The Witch of Blackbird Pond, and I'm going to forget the author's name. I'll link it below. But anyway, I'm about, I would say, halfway through that as well. I really am liking the characters and the setting a lot, so that's been enjoyable. I've just started Severance by Ling Ma. This is kind of like a non-traditional zombie apocalyptic book. I'm buddy reading this with Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. I've only just started it, so I can't really say much about it. So I've only read the first little bit, and it's basically like the falling, I guess, of the infrastructure and the beginning of like the apocalypse. I don't even really know what's happening yet. I'm only like a few pages in, but I'm going to get caught up on this tonight and check in for my buddy read. The last thing I haven't started yet, but I'm hoping to read this weekend, if not early next week. And this is going to be part of my pop culture osmosis series. and that's The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I think Courtney Farrader suggested this in a video of mine as a possible, I guess a contender for a very famous book that I would probably know at least something about. I will leave a playlist to that series that I do in the description box. And I agree, I think I know just enough about this book that I could probably figure out some things, but I haven't read it and I don't really know what happens in it. So yeah, so that will be coming up at some point in the next week. So I did say I was going to have a little ramble today, but this is mildly embarrassing. There was something I wanted to talk about and I didn't write it down and I don't remember what it was. So we're going to skip the ramble today, because whatever bookish thing I had wanted to discuss has grown wings and flew right out of my brain. So today is just going to be a Friday Reads, I guess. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing really well. And thanks always, everyone, for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.